My name is Aaron McDaniel. I am co-founder of 10X Innovation Lab, co-author of the book Global Class, along with Klaus Wehage, and super excited to have you join our latest growth series. We have an awesome story to hear from Muhammed or Mo Yildirim, and he is joining us. Where are you right now, Mo?
I'm actually at Istanbul, Turkey.
In Istanbul. Okay, perfect. Just a little bit of background on Mo. So he has experience as a founder of businesses himself. He also most recently was working as General Manager of International Expansion and Managing Director at Talabat, which is also part of Delivery Hero. And that's part of the story we're going to be hearing today about Talabat's expansion into Oman. But recently he moved over to become VP of Expansion at BitOasis, which is an awesome exchange cryptocurrency ecosystem, which he can tell us a little bit about. But we're excited to have you tell more of the story about Talabat, and then from there answer some questions from those who are attending. So Mo, welcome and take it away.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. But before starting, actually, I would like to say big thank you to you and Klaus on the hard work you put on the book while writing the book. Actually, I had a chance to briefly go through on the draft version. It's super exciting. And I'm sure that book will help a lot of professionals while they are expanding their business internationally. I'm super excited on that. And I'm very honored that I'm part of the journey from the very first day. Thanks for accepting me, actually. So, all right, let's start. Today, we're going to talk a bit how we scaled in Oman and in end of 2018 and 2019, how we scaled in Oman and Talabat. But first, I would like to start with what really expansion is, unlike the perception. Maybe if we move to the next slide. I prepared a cliche slide, which everybody will remember that format was popular maybe 5-10 years ago. So when it comes to expansion, a lot of time, what headquarter thinks, by the way, sarcasm alert, I have to say that, what headquarter thinks that you really go there in a destination, a location, that you really chill, enjoy, but it's never the reality. But also for the expansion teams, when you accept the new challenge, you feel like you're the godfather, you're the boss, you can do whatever you want. But in reality, it's never the case. So I have to be honest, although international expansion, a lot of time looks cool, but in reality, you end up closing deals maybe early in the morning. And then actually, I'd like to share one quick story there. When we expanded in Oman, there's a city called Salalah. It's a beautiful city in Oman. It is by the sea on the south of Oman, and then it's the green mountains. And then we were 3 people expanding into Salalah, and then one of us were sick, actually. I remember his name is Muhammed. He was sick in the hotel, had a fever. And then the second team member was closing deal. And there was one restaurant that we really wanted to onboard them during the lunch. It's like one of the best restaurants in town. But the guy told me that, you know what, I'm only available 2:30 a.m. Like, seriously, the guy said after the restaurant is closed, and then when their staff was doing the cleaning, etc., I'm available 2:30 a.m. I said, you know what, we cannot miss that opportunity. But then team members were busy and the guy only speaks Arabic. And I was the only one available where I don't speak any Arabic. I said, okay, you know what, we'll do it no matter what. So I went there. And then I called someone from Muscat, our head office in Oman, someone who speaks Arabic. I just facilitate the conversation. They talk each other in Arabic. And then they told me where to sign, where to fill, and this is how we made it. Well, I'm just giving as an example how expansion it is. And at the same time, every day is another war, I can say. And then you would really have limited time to sleep, especially in the beginning. So sleep wherever you can. Actually, that picture was the one that I was able to show here, because the other pictures while we're sleeping is on the floor, in the office, anywhere. And the last one, office space can be anywhere. Again, another quick story in Salalah. Salalah is like one of the most beautiful city of Oman, maybe the most beautiful one. But we did not find a lot of coffee shops that we can really go work between the meetings. So we rented 2 cars. Actually, we use the trunk of the cars as a table to work. So we really park the cars and then we put our laptops, work on there. So what I'm trying to say here, guys, expansion looks cool a lot of time. I know, but in reality, this is what expansion it is, at least what I experienced in the last, I don't know, 5-10 years in different countries. Perfect. So let's move to the next slide. So I would like to give a little bit a high level update about Oman, just in case we have audience from different part of the world, and then in case they did not really know where is Oman. So Oman is actually located on the south of this Arabian half island, like you see on the left side on the map, and then it shares the border with United Arab Emirates, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and then Yemen. So unlike a lot of people know, the name of the country is not Oman, it's Sultanate of Oman. And last, I would like to give few facts about Oman, which I will refer it on the next slide. So the population is 5.12 million. This is by 2021. When I was there, it was around 4.5-ish, but the mobile connection is 5.7 million. So it's more than the population. The internet users is almost 97-98% of the population, and active social media user is more than 4 million. Why I'm sharing this, you will understand on the next slides. But then Oman, actually, one of the unique cases, not only in the region, not only in GCC, in the world, when it's come to their internet usage, when this come to the penetration of the internet. All right, so when we expanded in Oman, actually the full story is briefly the following. So Oman was actually an operational market for us, but it was a very relatively very small team, 3-4 people. So it was operational, but frankly speaking, not too focused for us back then. And then when I accept the role, I said, you know what, let's go to Oman and make it big. And then in our industry, when it comes to food delivery or grocery delivery in Talabat, the first thing we do, we geofence the entire country. What do I mean with that? So eventually we are delivering our food or grocery or product to customers' location, but we have to pin the location in the map. We say, you know what, that area called X, and this is the border of an area, and this is the coordinates of an area. We insert this into our system. So that's very straightforward and very easy normally work, because Google Maps or a lot of map services gives you that service. You just type the name of the area. Let's say the one on the left actually called Børme. So it's an area or city in Muscat region. So normally Google gives you the coordinates of it, right? And it's super easy. You do the right click, you get the coordinates, you insert into your system. However, in 2018, we had 2 problems. Number one, in a lot of cities, maybe in tier 2, tier 3 cities, Google was not giving that service. So technically we could not identify what is the border of that area. And the second part, in the most like tier 1 cities, yes, Google provided that service, but what Google thinks that area is versus what people think that area is totally different. So probably the area used to call what people really think is, but then probably the government did some changes. So Google had the latest data, but at the end, people don't think that. People think that it's the people call that area. So with the old naming, so I said, it's a problem, because if we cannot geofence, we cannot really expand. And then we came up with a solution, and that was the best solution we were able to come. Actually, that credit goes to the team. I don't know if he's here, Hassan Martin. He used to be our head of sales, and then he took his car, literally drove entire country. While he was driving, he opened the Google Maps or any other map services, and he was driving the borders manually. And then every, I don't know, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, he stops in a restaurant, a coffee shop, invites the local people there, and then shows what he draws. Is this correct? Is this area called this way, that way? And then people say, you know what, a bit up, down, left, right. So that was the first challenges we had before expansion, and that probably you could never ever imagine, because in other countries that was just a couple hours of work, or it was, let's say, if the country is too large, let's say 1 day, 2 day, but then we had to draw entire Oman to geofence. But I'm glad that we had a great team back then, and then they really made it happen. And then on the next one, on the next slide, actually, once you have your setup, for any business, how are you gonna increase your reach? Like you are new in the market, or you want to go really big, and then you have to analyze your target audience. So I do one thing wherever I go. I pretend like one of them for the first couple of days or couple of weeks. What do I mean with that? I go visit the cities, not always the tier 1 cities. A lot of them tier 2, tier 3 actually gives you more insights. And then I eat there, I stay there, I talk to people, I try to be one of them. And that gives you a lot of insight you can't imagine. And you have to do it in the beginning of the journey, because if you do it after a month or two, and probably you'll be one of them, so you won't be able to catch these opportunities. So the first thing I do, I always go visit. And then actually on the marketing side, or let's say on the reach side, we had 3 amazing observations. Number one, I'm originally from Turkey, and Turkey is like 85 million, maybe 90 million by now. And then it's also changing for the time being, but in Turkey, celebrities are different, influencers are different, right? Celebrities are actors, actresses, singers, football players, whatever, but they're celebrity, and then we have influencers. Of course, and it's changing, by the way, but it was. And then, of course, collaborating with celebrities is much more influential, but it requires bigger budget. Influencers, lower impact, but a lower budget. But then we noticed one thing in Oman, it was an eye-opener. Their influencers were celebrity in the country. I said, look, that is amazing. That's probably the opportunity that we have to tap into before any other brand. And luckily, we had a very creative marketing team, and then they technically signed almost all the influencers in the market. I know it's not a good example, but I was saying that it's like you work with, you collaborate with Rihanna or Beyonce of the country, but then you pay, or the cost of the entire marketing campaign is 10x, let's say, cheaper. So it was a great opportunity. And then I think we were one of the first brand who we use influencers, the micro influencers, as the brand face. And a lot of time back then, brands were still concerned about associating their brand with the influencers, but in Oman, it went viral. And the second thing on this is the following. I'm early adapter to social media. I was using social media since 2007, 2008. But I never saw a nation or a country or a community that uses social media that much. I was always telling them, look, guys, you don't use social media, you live in social media. But then the question arises, and we said, look, how can we part of their conversations on social media? Look, we don't want to make it look or inorganic. We don't want to look like ads, etc. So the ad channels we were using, but we said, you know what, can we create some content? They consume it without we tell them. And the marketing team came up with a great idea. And then Snapchat had this customized filters or stickers, etc. And then we create some Talabat stickers or Talabat filters. Actually, it was Ramadan back then. In case the audience don't know Ramadan. Ramadan is a holy month that Muslim community fasts throughout the month. And then every day they start their fast, and the evening they break their fast. So a lot of time the jokes around towards when they break the fast was about being Thursday. And they were cracking a lot of jokes. So we created, for example, one Talabat sticker. It's a guy, but his head was as like a water bottle. And then while they were sharing, cracking jokes each other on social media, they use our sticker, but that bottle was branded Talabat. So we organically became part of the conversation. And the last one was also a big eye opener for me. And I was invited with the team members an event, and it's a micro event, just like 20, 30 people. It was in a compound, and then people one by one either sing a song or crack some jokes. I don't know, tell the story. But that compound has like at least 10, 20 rooms like this. And I saw that a lot of, and we were in part of the biggest room. The other rooms were like mostly even smaller, like 6 people, 10 people. I said, guys, why do you guys have so much micro events? I don't know the reason. I have a theory, but we figured out that the amount of micro events happening in Oman is massive. So we said, okay, guys, we found another channel. This is how we're gonna tackle, how we're gonna touch the society. And then we start collaborating or sponsoring a lot of micro events, even if it's just 5, 6 people. We made it so easy to reach us, even WhatsApp, phone, or they will be able to come to our office saying that, look, guys, this is our plan. We are arranging this gathering. Can you sponsor it? And from the budget point of view, although it takes time for each of them, but from budget point of view, it was amazing because some of the sponsor was just ordering pizza for them. But together, these three, maybe a few other points actually made the brand cool. And then in Oman, I can say if something is cool, people use, try, give a chance. So I think we managed to make it cool. And the last part, the last opportunity, a challenge or opportunity I can mention on the next slide is called Omanization. So Omanization is technically this is a very common practice in GCC. A lot of governments kind of put this nationalization rules for some certain roles. You can only hire from that nation. You cannot hire expats. For some certain departments, you have to maintain X% Omani or national. Or overall company, you have to have X%. Look, I have no problem with that, and I understand the reason behind, but we need to move. We need to expand very fast, and then some certain roles require some specific skill set. And then not in the tier one cities. In tier one cities, we were still lucky to get the best talent in the market. I'm very grateful, but especially in tier two, tier three cities, it was a bit difficult. But it was difficult, but at the same time, it was an opportunity. Opportunity in a way that since they don't have legacy issues, there's fresh talents, they were much more creative, they're eager to take risks, but at the same time, they were lack of experience. So then what we did, okay, guys, this is the situation. We're going to go big, grow with this fact. And then we said, you know what, from very first day, we made the training part of our culture. In the beginning, it was annoying because I was inviting people 8 a.m. in the morning. Not only me, a lot of senior people in the team, and to sometimes also external trainers or people from headquarters came visit us, give some training. But in the beginning, it was not nice. People say like 8 a.m., why are we here? But then something happened. After 1 week, they say, you know what, actually, it is working. After 2 weeks, yeah, it is working. After a month, I say, you know what, actually, we're starting delivering, it's working. So we scaled, like we were in the beginning, team member 3-4 people. Then when I was leaving, it was like 6 or 7, if I'm not mistaken. And then majority of them Omani. But then the training was from first day till last, it was part of the culture. So that's it in a nutshell. I know that there will be a lot of questions, so I don't want to take more of your time, guys, but these were the high level anecdotes that I experienced while expanding in Oman. Every expansion is a story. Every expansion is a book itself. This was more like a short summary of Oman.
Thanks, Mo. That's awesome. I appreciated learning a little bit about the Sultanate of Oman and some of these initiatives. And you know, you're right. I remember that meme from a few years ago of like what your mom thinks you do, what you really do. And yes, it is not always glamorous. It is sometimes taking that 2:30 in the morning meeting because that's the only time you can get. So thank you for sharing that. I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about the dynamic between headquarters and the work you were doing in each of the markets. I know sometimes there can be friction of different things because there's certain headquarters initiatives and goals they have versus what you see in the market is needed. I'd love to get a little insight on that, and then we'll open up to some questions.
True. Look, I will not deny it's not there. It was always there because like how I said, it's a bit sarcasm, but always there's some certain perception or some certain learnings or legacy in the headquarters, which is not necessarily applicable in the region that you go. But I think I was lucky, and Talabat is also like great organization on that point. People really appreciated the local know-how and really open to listen to local stories. Of course, in the beginning, as you can imagine, in the beginning, you need to prove yourself a bit to say, look, guys, I hear you, but then this works better here, but then maybe take 1 or 2. And I was lucky that all the people in the headquarters was really giving like full freedom, and then they trust more than I was looking for. And then we were able to do it. But you're very right, unless that trust, that appreciation of the local know-how, it will not work. Like I'll just give one example. When we first run the influencers partnerships, it worked. And then we said, you know what, can we take it to the next level? Can we really work with these influencers as our face? And then back then it was a concern, like none of the brands in the region wanted it, but we got the approval, we proved our theory there, and then all out-of-home campaigns, taxis, bridge banners everywhere, Talabat was associated with these local influencers. Then it created something. Look, these guys are regional, and we know that it's also delivery heroes, it's global, but actually they talk our language. They really care, they are one of us. But after that, that approach utilized in other market as well. So I think I can say I was lucky, and Talabat was a great organization to appreciate these differences.
Yeah, you know, that's a really important point about that perception within the local market of what type of company you are and your level of commitment to the market. So I think that's totally important. So so Hassan, I see your question. If you could hold on for another moment, there's one thing we wanted to do first, actually, before opening it up. This is kind of the fun part, where we get to talk a little bit about this this tool that we have within the global class framework. And basically within our book, as some of you may be aware or seen some of the materials around, we are writing a book on international business expansion. We've talked to over 400 executives from over 50 countries, which also include Mo, and everyone's just been so generous about sharing their perspective. And we brought that all together into a set of tools to be able to help companies that have an existing global footprint, and they're looking to penetrate markets more. They're looking to expand to new markets, even those that are interested in international careers and want to learn a little bit more about just how that and the certain right cultural mindset you can take to be successful. So part of that is this tool that we call the localization premium tool. And the notion is that you have to change your model from the home country or the initial market you validate in as you go into new markets, because you can't, as Mo was talking about, you can't treat it exactly the same. You have to be mindful of things like in Oman, Omanization for talent and other things. And so what we want to do is quickly map out what that change looked like compared to the initial market, and have you give a little bit more commentary around these different categories. And as we go through each, I'll quickly explain what each means so everybody knows what we're talking about, and then we'll go ahead and open things up for Q&A. So the top criteria are go-to-market related. The bottom criteria are more operational back-end structures, processes. So we'll start in the upper left, which is marketing premium. So that's differences in use case, differences in value proposition, differences in advertising strategy. You know, Mo was talking a little bit about that with influencers in Oman, as well as different competitive landscape and different target customer base. So how different was that in Oman versus the initial market?
I think that's one of the things that I would rate comfortably 5. And the reason behind, I gave 3 examples, but then especially in that industry, delivery like food and grocery delivery, it's very, very, very hyper local. Like you really calculate street by street, like the building by building. So when a business is that local, the marketing cannot be standard, right? It cannot be generalized. So I gave 3 examples, but then what we did on Snapchat, for example, probably wouldn't be applicable in the UAE. It's totally different. Or micro events reality in Oman probably not really exist in UAE or other markets. So I will comfortably say this is 5.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the next category at the top, sales premium. So that is whether you have to change pricing or revenue model, differences in channel, were there any partners or distribution partners involved, differences in customer service?
Yeah.
And how did that change?
I would call it 4. And the reason behind, we changed few things, or we did few things fundamentally different. When it comes to sales, in our industry, sales is technically the restaurant side of business, not the customer side of the business. So this is like, first you need to have the supply so that they know that the revenue orders will follow. And then we actually initially introduced a different commission scheme or different revenue model to attract a lot of F&B businesses in our platform. And we also, I don't want to say totally change, but optimize a lot of process could be much more applicable in the region. Look, I always say Dubai is one of the unique cases. What you do is Dubai is definitely not working what you do in tier 3 cities in Oman. There were like some cities, if maybe I'm pronouncing the name differently, Kurayat, it's just, I don't know, less than 100,000 people. And then they totally have their own thing. So you cannot really go with the same product. So I will say that it will be 4 when it's come to, we change the revenue model, or we kind of optimize it in a way that will attract. And maybe one important thing I would say, in our business, lead generation is one of the key. And I think it's in a lot of business, but in food delivery, lead generation is also one of the key. You have to always identify the best possible restaurants available so that your customers will like. And normally that is not a difficult job, right? Like you sit in front of your laptop, there was a lot of scripters, a lot of platforms gives you, but you know what? It wasn't the case. We really needed to build a team to drive on the street and then talk one by one, get the contact details. It's really that like tailored. And then this is how we made it. So I would say 4 when it's come to sales premium.
Right. You know, and this is a really important point for everyone to understand is with a business like Talabat, it's a 2-sided marketplace. So there are 2 sets of customers. There are the restaurants as well as the people eating at the restaurants, or people who, you know, the businesses that are having their products picked up, and then the people getting it delivered. So yes, that creates 2 sets of customers to consider. And then the top right is product premium. So that's differences that needed to be made to the product offering or the mobile app. Or you know, the platform that the things were being delivered on.
I was in between 2 and 3, but I think I would say 3. The reason behind, look, we did not really customize the product differently. It's the same regional, to some extent global product, and a lot of expense. But then what we made it different a bit. Oh, sorry. I apologize, guys. Oh.
Oh no.
No problem.
Sorry, I'm in a hotel room in Istanbul at the moment, still doing
the life of expansion, right?
Yeah. For the first time, I'm expanding into my home country. It's a BitOasis. So the reason I'm saying between 2 and 3, we did not change the product a lot, but we changed how we present the product in a bit. I'll give you the example. The food images and descriptions, we identify that people are so picky when it comes to food images and then the food, the menu item descriptions. Mm-hmm. And Oman, normally a lot of Talabat market was heavily this global key accounts, like now this global QSR brands. But in Oman, people were more open to discover new tastes. And then when data says this, you know what, then the food images is the reason of their decision or the food description. So we spent quite a lot of time and effort to update this, to present in a different way. So at the end, product looks slightly different. So, but it's not fundamentally different. Same product, a bit maybe a different the front end and a different visualization. So between 2 and 3, I think it will be fair.
Awesome. All right, so now let's go to the bottom half of the chart, which is more operational items. So bottom right is admin premium. So did new corporate entities need to be created? Differences in taxation and currency, government regulation and compliance, intellectual property, the politics of the country.
No, that is too. It wasn't really different. I think the beauty of doing business in GCC, a lot of regulations, a lot of policies are pretty much same or very similar. There's slight differences, obviously, but then GCC governments are kind of well like connected and communicating in a way that they make it more or less the same, easier, same difficult. So I wouldn't say it was an issue for our industry. So 2 is fair.
Great. At the bottom is organization premium, and you were starting to talk a little bit about this with Omanization and some of the people driving around. This has to do with human resources and hiring teams in the area, also differences in business culture in different places. So how would you rate this?
Yeah, and this is a second one. I will comfort to say 5, like how I mentioned on the previous slides. This Omanization really changes the game. I'm not saying it's a blocker or difficulties, but it makes you do things differently. As I mentioned, you have to build an Omani team. They're super creative, eager to take risks, hardworking. So this is you cannot really find in a lot of experienced teams. You know that when you have experience, you are less eager to take risks. You have legacy most of the time, not always, for sure. So then when it comes to Oman, is yes, this plus are there, but at the same time, there wasn't a lot of talent who's already educated or trained on this kind of job. So we had to do it differently, but not only in the training point of view, the culture needs to be shaped differently, right? So imagine the training is core of the culture, or people take a lot of risk, they'll do a lot of creating things, meaning that they will do a lot of mistakes. So the high tolerance, at the same time, a winning culture. So I think Oman was one of the example, like all my experiences, that we need to do things unique. So blindly, I would say 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's also because speed is so important.
Yeah.
Having to go through a different type of hiring process and have to train in a much more extensive way, that really can affect that speed. So I'm sure that presented some challenges. And then last but not least, the last category is infrastructure premium. So this has to do with supply chain as it relates to physical products. It has to do, with things like internet connectivity. It has to do with things like payment processing. Some countries have different rules around data privacy and customer data, and needing to stand up a new tech stack in country. Talk about that.
Yeah, similar to admin premium, Oman is a part of also GCC, so a lot were that we were very familiar from other markets as well. Of course, slight difference from market to market, but then overall, two is more than enough. So it wasn't so different.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you look here, this is quite the area you had to go away from UAE, and obviously deal with a number of the challenges that you talked through. So let's open things up to the audience and see what kind of questions that you guys have. I know Hassan, you had your hand up before. I don't know if you still have that question. I know that was a minute or two ago, but would love to hear anyone's questions. Feel free to talk them, to type them. So I'll start with one that Abdullah had written in the Q&A chat. What was your toughest challenge that you couldn't find a solution for?
Well, very good question. Probably there are many, but one thing I would be super happy that if I would find a solution. So I'll answer this way. Look, we expanded in total 10 cities. Actually, 2-3 of them we were operational, maybe 6-7 like brand new. But then Oman, like the population when I was like 4.5 million, and then the Muscat, the capital, has only like 1 million. So still big chunk of the population was in tier 2, tier 3 cities. Yes, we did a good job expanding in 10 cities in a short time, but the opportunity was probably 2x, 3 times in the same amount of time. I think what I will be much more proud of if we could find a solution, how to expand 30 cities in 1 year. And we were able to do it only 10, although this was above and beyond our expectations initially, but after 2 months, we noticed that the opportunity is bigger than we thought. So I'll be proud if we will make it 30 cities in 1 year.
Yeah, that's
whatever is still available.
Okay, so questions from the audience. Any questions? Hassan, I don't know if your question was answered, or anyone else would love to get any questions anyone has. Any hands or any questions? Ilya says congrats.
Congrats.
All your hard work. Awesome.
Thank you, Ilya.
Yeah, Ilya said, how are you handling last mile delivery?
Okay. First, this is 3-4 years ago. I have an idea how it is now, but so that's why please take this how it was during my time. It was one of the toughest challenges because Oman market was a bit more restaurant delivery market than platform delivery market. So we had 2 challenges on that. Number one, but of course, this is a fact that when platforms do the delivery, I'm not talking on the Talabat, when platforms do the delivery, they were able to optimize. So it's over the time getting faster, that is much better. But then the market, a lot of restaurant owners initially was not so open to outsource their delivery to platforms, because these kind of platforms mostly was like just a sales channel, not a logistic channel for them. So initially we received a bit defensive approach from the restaurant. And also on the rider supply side, initially we had difficulties to find riders, but then it was something we expected and we knew that it's going to happen. Always the solution is the following. You always have early adopters, and these early adopters create success stories, and it starts being heard in the market. And then a restaurant owner sees that another restaurant next to his restaurant is doing like 2x, 3x, 5x delivery or 5x orders after they do the switch, and they're becoming much more open. So this is two normal, natural process. Same goes to the rider supply side as well. And then when they see that, okay, these riders are getting jobs, like they're doing a lot of orders, and then they are happy, and then it's also happening. I think it's basic economics. But yes, it was difficult, challenging in the beginning, but it wasn't surprising. We knew that what we're going to face. So we were ready.
Awesome. And it looks like Ilya agrees with you about partnering in the community, and maybe you guys should be connecting, because Ilya was talking about a food delivery company that he worked on in New York City 15 years ago. So very early in that space. I'm sure there's a ton of things. So
Hassan, it's a lot actually. 15 years ago, yeah.
Totally. Hassan had asked, which was a harder market to crack in your expansion, the B2B side or the B2C side, and why?
Look, in my case, before Talabat, it was a B2B product, Insider. They're also doing a great job now, expanded, I don't know how many markets. In Talabat, it was B2C, but B2B at the same time. And now in BitOasis, it's pure B2C. It's a bit difficult to say. I think every market has like unique challenges. So I'll tell you one thing. In Iraq, you need to have entire KYC process to onboard a customer. It doesn't matter if it's a B2B product, B2C. That wasn't something we were familiar. So then it requires a lot of extra tech team, knowledge behind that. In Oman, I mentioned a lot. In Kuwait, it wasn't an expansion on my experience. Kuwait is actually the oldest, the heritage market of Talabat. But while we're scaling there, it also had a unique let me share a few of them. I think Kuwait is, when it comes to Kuwait, is the best market when it comes to creating their local homegrown brands. And then a lot of them actually start in Kuwait and then comes to region, or some of them goes internationally. And then, of course, giving service to these homegrown, super successful brands required a bit tailor-made approach than any other market. But anyways, long story short, I think I cannot say which one is more difficult or easier. I think every market has some sort of uniqueness, which I think I enjoy doing it. I'm not saying every time we were successful, there was a lot of failure, probably. It's itself another session, but I can say I enjoyed every single bit of it.
Awesome. Actually, along those lines, Hassan had asked, what is your take on failures? So maybe a short answer to that would be interesting.
A lot of stories, there are a lot of sessions like this focus on success stories, but in reality, we all know this is maybe 1% or 5% of the real picture. The reality is 95% of time you keep failing. But what is important at the end, unless you don't give up, you're not technically failed, right? Like, keep trying. So actually, only thing I can say, I failed a million times. I think anyone in this call failed a million times. It's going to happen. It's just going to happen. It's so normal. As long as you give up and then continue pushing, one way or another, you will make it. I think that could be maybe the recipe of expansion. Especially expansion, you will do a lot of mistakes because you go there and you have no idea. And that is so normal.
So that's what you are sharing is very much the entrepreneurial mindset that we talk about. So INTER as an international. And that's this combination of the agile, resilient grit that Mo is sharing, as well as a very cultural mindset to be able to understand, and in this case, the Omani market, to localize the business there. One last question is from Abdullah. So, what did you study, or excuse me, how did you study the purchasing power per city before launch?
I like the question. Of course, there's some data available online, but in my case, I don't think that I put more than 50% of the weightage. I really prefer being one of the people who I'm going to serve. I also prefer my team to do the same. As simple as go that city, that locations, just spend a couple of days, if needed, weeks, be one of them, like eat in the restaurants there, stay in the city, talk to people, literally buy something, do shopping, and then you understand. And most importantly, do it immediately. If you do it after 1 month or two, I'm telling you're becoming one of them already, and you won't be able to identify what was the opportunity. Do it the first thing. Even before expansion, in Oman, there was like how we were doing the city launches. One city launch is happening at the same time we're planning the other city launches, the following city launches, but we always go for a trip to discover. And the goal is just stay 2 days in the city. Just feel it, feel the vibe. So that's why when it's come to purchasing power, to your question, Abdullah, of course, there's data available online, but I kind of trust more what I really experience, or let's say 50-50 max.
This is such a great point. And this is something we actually heard a good example of this from our last growth series with Troy, who was talking about expanding Evernote into India, and how just being there in the market, feeling it, understanding it. He actually talked to this story about how he identified an interesting marketing channel that he didn't think about, of these delivery people who were carrying like these crates of buckets on their heads, delivering lunches to people. And he was putting in advertisements as part of those lunches because they were delivering them to their target customers. So you don't understand that unless you are in the market seeing it. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Well, amazing. So I'm going to share this last screen here. We would love to connect with you. We know that everybody on this call is busy, whether you are somewhere in the Middle East region and it's the evening for you, whether you are in the United States or somewhere in South America, Latin America, where it's the morning, or I guess really late or really early if you're in Asia somewhere. We definitely appreciate you all joining. And Mo, we wish you the best of luck as you continue to work on BitOasis. And I have to say, I love your energy. We love your energy, and thank you for sharing that with us. And we wish you best of luck as you keep expanding.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.